other organizations, such as Earth Observation Australia, on everything that is relevant and going on nationally and internationally, so that we all know about each other's activities, roles, responsibilities, and achievements. This is in development at the moment. Stuart Finn is representing Earth Observation Australia in these discussions. Within the steering committee of Earth Observation Australia, we've had discussions about this. We are interacting and we are producing a very short, snappy document to present at a meeting next week, which is still a, let's say, a closed meeting based on invitation only. But Earth Observation Australia is there, is representing us, and we're trying to represent everybody in Earth Observation, active in Earth Observation in Australia, so that there are nobody is excluded. Now, this is an ongoing activity, and Stuart will make sure that as things start becoming clearer, that there will be feedback to us on this activity. But it's a really exciting activity, and it's a real realization by the Australian Space Agency that many of us have had very worthwhile and very influential roles all over the world and in Australia, and that they need to be aware of it. So it's a good development, and I think it shows that the Australian Space Agency is also very open for all of us to be involved. But what we're trying to do is to streamline the information going in and out of the Australian Space Agency with respect to Earth observation, so that it all remains manageable. So that was just a short update on that aspect. Next, Glenn Campbell on the Earth Observation Forum 2020. Glenn.
Thanks for that, Arnold. I'll just keep it quick. So can you just flick over to the main slide? Thanks, mate. So the forum is still rolling on those dates are critical. And just to reiterate that the idea of the forum is not just a talk and listen thing, is to get people interacting. And so for that to work, we need to kind of reach out to all parts of the whole Earth observation gig. That means trying to snag those people who are in the upstream part, like the satellite developers and operators, mostly the people within this call, the EO info producers, which are most of us, but we also need to have a look at the downstream and try and get users of products and services together. So that's what we're aiming for. The calls for abstracts are coming out at the end of the month, so make sure you get onto that. And broadly, we're looking at themes of around the fundamental science and research we do, as well as how that research and design turns into applications, the applications themselves, sessions around the enabling technologies that we might have used for coordination and collaboration and education itself. So it's rolling on now. We've got conference organisers getting the detailed budget together, and more detail will be coming out as time goes on. But look at that date and have a look out for the call for abstracts coming soon. That's me.
Great. And yeah, please, everybody, note this in your diary. We anticipate 400 to 500 people, and it's going to be the first time that the whole Earth observation community in Australia, and probably with international participants, can get together in such a coordinated way. So, and it's going to be very interactive. It's not just going to be presentations. There's lots of really advanced interactive sessions and brainstorming sessions going to go on. So it's going to be a really good opportunity for all of us to interact. And if you have ideas on special sessions, on special activities, of course, contact any of us, because it's also your conference and your forum. Good, thank you. On to something else now, which is the SmartSat CSC. And just so everybody understands how we do this, in Earth Observation Australia, the steering committee, the chair of these kind of whole of community sessions is going to rotate from now on. And that gives everybody with a different background an opportunity to propose a focused presentation. And when I was asked about a month ago, I thought this is a great opportunity to present the SmartSet Collaborative Research Center, which has just been established, so that you all can get exposed to it, understand it, and start interacting with it, because it's a very exciting opportunity for at least for the next 7 years. And it's a great addition to our space and Earth observation landscape in Australia, and we're very lucky that this was awarded by the government. And so I'd like to hand over to Andy, the CEO of the SmartSet CRC.
Thank you very much, Arnold, and good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you a little bit about the SmartSat CRC. We will do it in 3 segments. I will present a little bit around the, what is the SmartSat CRC and what we're trying to do. And then Peter Nikolov, our industry director, will continue the conversation with the presentation and conversation with some of the applications. And then finally, Stuart Finn, no segment of this. As you know, until recently, Australia has had very little satellite capability of its own in communications, but particularly in Earth observation. The NOVASAR initiative is a great initiative that will give us ability, at least not our own assets, but being able to task and control those assets for EOA. What we decided to do as a group here at the University of South Australia, in partnership with an industry partner, Nova Systems, and indeed my colleague Peter Nikolov is the co-founder of that very great Australian company. We decided to actually begin a long march towards a bid for a new CRC. I do assume that all of you know what the Cooperative Research Centre program is and the scheme is. And we brought together a large number of industry participants, as well as a very large number of universities that have space and satellite capability, as well as communications capabilities. We brought them together to actually push the technology boundary in 2 important areas. One, of course, is communications and connectivity, and the other one is Earth observation and remote sensing. And to some extent, to also carry on the flag in partnership with Frontier SI, as you've mentioned previously, was a highly successful CRC in spatial information systems. So Frontier SI is one of our anchor partners, together with many other partners that we have in this CRC. We were very fortunate to be successful in this endeavor, and we won $55 million directly from the government. Our industry partners have committed another $55 million in cash. And then we have an additional $135 million in-kind, both in personnel, but also very significantly in some of the infrastructure that is required for us to have satellite technologies to be able to then use those for Earth observation, for remote sensing, and of course for communications and connectivity. We had quite a large number of workshops throughout Australia towards the preparation of the bid, and tried to identify an area that would make sense for Australia to compete in. So we stayed reasonably away from launch and from satellite manufacturing. We found that although we do have some pockets of capability in that area, we were probably far better positioned as an Australian research community and industry to actually do much more around the communications, using the next generation of communication technologies, but also in the use and the analytics, the use of big data for communications, but more specifically for Earth observation. And the great work that Maddie was actually giving us in terms of the applications of this terrific company, actually, based in Western Australia, we want to continue that. And optimize a lot of that work from satellite platforms rather than aerial platforms, which clearly are far more expensive and have greater risks. So we identified 3 program areas in which we will spend a lot of time of our research effort. The first one is advanced communications, connectivity, and IoT technologies. I won't say very much about that, but also we have very much the theme of artificial intelligence, machine learning, genetic algorithms, and other AI techniques applied to all of the research and technologies that we will be developing. So rather than having, for instance, having the satellite platforms collect the data using very specialized sensors and optical cameras, how can we do a lot of that analytics capability on the top of the satellite, on the platform itself, so that you don't have to necessarily take all the data down, do the analytics, and then make some insights and take some actions. We want to be able to actually bring this as close to the real-time observation as possible as the technology will allow us. And as you know, with low Earth observation, with LEO satellite constellations, the way they're moving now, this will become possible in the very near future. And we want to make sure that we are pointing the technologies to this area. You can see the research program, a lot of the terms there. It's very busy, of course, because that is guiding our research. But the 3 programs that we have are the advanced communications, the advanced satellite systems and sensors, excuse me, and finally, the next generation of VO data services. I think, as you pointed to, I think it was Alex that talked at EO 2.0. Next slide, please. The next slide, no?
Oh, sorry, next slide.
Thank you.
This one?
As you know, with all CRCs, we also have a very strong education, training, and inspiration element to the work that we do. And we are lucky because space is quite inspiring to young and old indeed. We have promised the government that we will be graduating 73 PhD students and training more than 400 space engineers, scientists, data scientists, and others, system engineers, and so on. So we want to make sure that we really develop the capability here in Australia so that when we do have satellite engineering and Earth observation specialists, they don't have to go overseas to actually get a job, but they have employment here in Australia. I'll pass over now to Peter Nikolov, my colleague, to talk a little bit about what we do in terms of really building and supporting the startup ecosystem, because that would be very, very important to us.
Pardon me. The SmartSat, I'm the industry director of the SmartSat organisation, CRC at the moment. But I'll go back a little bit higher than that. The industry focus of the CRC is underpins everything we do. Because the focus that we've got is the same as the agency and the Defence Department. We really want to grow a very strong space sector. So we've got sovereign capability in this country. So all our projects that are applied will have some visibility to our industry review, and unless it's got industry partnerships involved, it's got good commercial potential, the project's not likely to get up. So we're really encouraging a strong linkage between our universities, our research organisations and the industry partners. So that's very important. The other part of the process of trying to grow the industry, which Andy just mentioned, we are establishing a startup company which allows easy access for the startup community, because they don't necessarily have the resources or the funding to actually get involved as being a core partner. So we're giving them this environment where they can come in for at least for the first 12 months at sort of no cost, and we'll run numerous programs and mentor processes in interaction with industry groups to try and support them to be grow successful commercial entities in Australia. So that's really critical to us. At the moment, we've probably got a community of about up to 40 startups, and we see that environment sort of continually rolling over as companies come in. Some of them might have great ideas. They might sort of, if we can't get them into some good opportunities, they might disappear. Then we'll bring in new startups. Some of the startups are going really well, gangbusters, and they can transition into more activities with our bigger partner areas. You can see the slide there with our core partners, the major contributors, are a very good mix of the universities and both Australian and international industry partners. One thing I want to emphasise is two of our stronger partners from the Australian government side are the CSIRO and Department of Defence, and they both have got programs where they really want to support the growth of the industry. CSIRO focus on sort of various technologies related around space, but they also have strong programs to help the startup community as well. Defence has got quite a big investment fund again to try and help startups kick off and grow in Australia, and the agency has got that same concept as well. So we'll be working very closely together with those government partners as well to try and help grow and encourage the growth of the space sector. And we're going to have ambitious goals like the agency and defence have got with trying to meet those numbers you've probably seen in the media, grow our workforce by 20,000 years over the next decade or so, and also triple the income that the Australian economy gets from the space environment. So it's all very, very exciting, and we've sort of got lots of passionate people from the full breadth. We've actually got a startup steering group at the moment working at trying to determine what is best for their community. We're asking them, surveying them, and this startup company, we're actually giving them a voice. So we want them to be able to self-organise, and they'll give them a voice at the core level of the management of the SmartSat and the management team. But they'll have opportunities to establish their own board within this company as part of a training and development side as well. So I think that's very important to help them with their confidence in getting into a larger, more complex company type environments. This startup company will certainly give them that with the diversity of people they got on board there. So that's probably, the other area, we're probably one thing that we haven't sort of talked about. We've actually gone through the initial expression of interest and looking at the initial range of projects, and we're addressing all of our three areas, which is advanced communications, the intelligence systems and EO, and I guess Stuart will talk about some of the EO initiatives and what's happening there. What Andy didn't go through is we've got a very ambitious program of getting our SmartSat up and running. We've got 7 years and we don't want to waste any time. So we've actually been working from the day we got approved. We've been working flat out to get our legals in place, the management team, start the project process even before the contracts were signed. So we're well underway, well advanced in getting the initiative happening. Another important initiative for us is getting these technologies to a state which they are more likely to succeed commercially. So we're going to have a very strong program of technology demonstration that includes ground testing, probably aerial testing, and more importantly, we're targeting at least 3 space missions, which we'll use to assess the various technologies from all the sectors. So we don't run out of time, I'll move over to Stuart, and later on, I guess we've got questions people can ask us more questions.
Cool. Thanks, Pete and Andy. I just want to, before I get into Program 3, acknowledge all the work that the team's done to set this up. It's a very large and complex CRC, but with an incredible amount of industry and government support. So Andy and Peter have done a lot to drive that along with some of our other colleagues as well. So as you saw before, there are 3 programs in the CRC. The third program is specifically around the downstream side of space or Earth observation analytics. And I'm just going to briefly run through the 5 programs and highlight one activity that we're working on. So there's 5 activities that you can see on the screen up there. Activity 1 is the first one off the ground, and that's essentially a very detailed market analysis of where are people using Earth observation at the moment in industry, and where are some of the potential gaps that can be filled. We have a number of reports done about government use in that over the last 2 to 5 years by groups like ACIL Allen, but this is sort of a different level. This activity will also look at how do we put together, data sets, processing capability, distribution capability in a sensible way for people to use it. And that's looking at things like Digital Earth Australia. It's looking at online programs through Amazon, Google, Maxar. How do we access those? We'll be looking at companies like UP42, which some of you have seen. Activity 2 is the one that's specifically focused on end users of remote sensing products. So it's about how do we deliver the types of goods and services that you saw in that Map Easy presentation, in terms of yield maps, restoration assessment maps, water quality maps, information that people can make decisions on. So activity 2 is really about building the sector of Earth observation that transforms, Earth observation data, products, images into information and services that people will pay for and use. It's very much about research proven activities and taking them through to delivery in a whole range of different industries. It's not about we've got some data and some machine learning algorithms, let's figure it out. That's not the place for this. There are other places for that. This is about where are there market ready applications for people to work with. Activity 3 is one of the developments we'd like to see in Australia, that to go with sort of this space 2.0 or space 4.0, depending on how you look at it, where industry is. And that's the design, build and launch of operation of satellites is now an extremely rapid, much smaller scale process than it has been over the last 5 to 30 years. So part of that is building systems which are optimized for certain environments. So it could be certain crops, certain types of natural environments. So how do you actually build sensors or sensor design specifications that are optimized for one type of environment or application? And how do you build them so that the data can be processed on board the satellite, so you have a much smaller data stream that's sent down to Earth? So activity 3 is about application-driven sensor design, moving away from general, super high-quality sensors, which have their own merits and needs, and they're not going to disappear, but very application-driven sensors. Activity 4, it's essentially a testbed capability. Where can people come and test new sensors, products, and algorithms in both natural environments and production environments? And we'll use a lot of our existing national research infrastructure there. And activity 5 is the development of missions. So that gets to the point Andy and Peter made about building and launching systems. Activity 5 is to contribute jointly to design, build, launch and operate sovereign systems for Australia in this space. So those are the 5 activities that we're working on. Next slide, please. And I'm just going to finish on one of those particular activities which we're likely to look at. This has been a joint activity with the CSIRO Space 2.0 work, particularly activities that Sarah Pearce and her colleagues have run. One of the recent applications was looking at a national competition to see what are potential national missions that could be run to build space capability in Australia that would build on what we've done before on the ground, help integrate what we've done and move it forward in space. And Australia and Australian scientists, particularly Earth observation scientists, and particularly Arnold, who's running this, have done a lot of work to figure out, how do we build satellites and monitoring systems for looking at where water is in the environment and how it's changing over time. Digital Earth Australia and the Water Observation from Space program's done some of that as well. So how do we actually build a system, which would design and build satellites that would provide, water-based information for a range of commercial and government activities? And again, it's to work with what's there. So you can see the aim is that the AquaWatch system will be a national collaboration, ideally, which will draw on both ground-based measurement of the water that's there and its characteristics, so linking in with what the Met Bureau and other national infrastructure is doing. Design, build and launch one or more satellites, which will be designed specifically for looking at water in the environment in terms of fresh water and coastal areas as well. So this is a product and service that's needed for essential activities in Australia, and we can contribute globally with it. So you'll see more of this and how it evolves and how to contribute over time. Thanks, So next slide. I think that's the last one. And then the last point is we've started the call for PhD students already. We'll make sure this information is on the website. As Andy and Pete both highlighted, we do have a large number of potential PhD activities. These will be directly industry linked. The aim is to build capability in Australia for doing this in more detail. So I'll leave it there. Thanks, Arnold.
Excellent, thank you. And Eva Rodriguez wanted to just add a little bit more to this discussion on the Smart Set CC. She is a research projects officer in the Smart Set CC. Eva.
Yeah, thanks, Arnold. Just to complement and add to what Stuart, Andy, and Peter just said, in terms of activity, I think it's important to mention the fact that we've gone through our first expression of interest to partners process, and we are in the process of finalizing the assessment of this first round of ideas and project expressions, and we will be in a position to, I guess, for all of those that are in line, that are partners and others that may be wondering where we are in terms of activity, we'll be in a position to have an understanding of the kinds of projects that we're likely to kick off in the next year. So it is extremely exciting, and we're seeing a lot of activity come there. Linked to Stuart's AquaWatch presentation for this concept of a mission and for a project, we envisage that there may be a suite of projects and a program of work that may look at water monitoring, water quality. We're seeing this is an area of interest for our partners and in Australia in general, and we're working towards creating a program of work with different levels of maturity when it comes to technology and delivery of solutions and research. So I just wanted to make the point there that the community knew that this is an area that it's creating a lot of interest, and it's gaining a lot of interest here in Australia, and we're working actively with the community in that regard.
Thank you, Eva. There is a question, actually two questions already. One is from Jonathan Ross, which is how will the SmartSat CRC establish pathways for operationalization, either commercial or government pathways for each of the areas? So how will they establish those pathways for operationalization? And is there anything you want to add, Andy or Peter or Stuart, to that question?
Yes, we can certainly add quite a bit on that. Pete, maybe you start. Or yeah.
I guess importantly, what we're looking at, the CRC has got those three technology areas, but our focus is to pull them together so we're providing end-to-end capabilities. So that's the really important aspect there. We don't want to treat a little individual bit of technology and have it stand alone and it may not be able to stand up. So we'll be looking at projects as a whole. We've got a couple of initiatives, a number of initiatives. We're actually going to have part of the CRC, we've got end user advisory groups. And they're going to be people, not necessarily partners, some of the partners may be on them, but they'll be in the sectors that actually will be understand the environment and where the problems and issues are. So that is one path to actually get our technologies and our work we're going there. One, ratified to say we're working on the right areas, but two, also they'll help with the path to getting this out into the commercial sector. So the areas we'll be looking at, ag is one of the strong ones, which obviously this group will be working with. Water is a huge area. We've got our national security one, we've got logistics and transport type areas, mining sector, but it's probably the ag end user group that we'll be working with. But we're also going to be working with all the states. So all the states have got various programs to support, particularly the startup community, incubators and accelerators and things like that as well. And we'll be working closely with them. But the advantage we've got is we've got such a strong industry component. We'll certainly be using our industry component to help mentor and encourage or support us on initiatives on how we commercialise this various initiatives that come out of it. But they got to have a solution. They've got to be commercially viable. Otherwise, we'll probably more than likely not support those sort of initiatives that aren't. Andy, do you want to add some words?
No, I think that you've said it very well, Peter, but we will have a commercialization strategy as well. Every CRC is required to have a commercialization strategy. And as Peter said, we are very product and service oriented in our approach. All of the technology will actually be brought together with the view that we will take something from the TRL 3 to 4, 5, all the way to TRL 9. That's really our intent. And although this is a CRC for 7 years, because the funding from the federal government is for 7 years, we have already from the beginning resolved that this will become a sustainable entity. And it will not survive unless it has that kind of plan to commercialize.
Plan and industry support.
And industry support to do so, absolutely. And we've been given support by ADS corporates that have capabilities for us to do successive testing, valuation, and operationalization of the technology.
Great, thanks for that. There was another question on the chat, in-group chat, and one question is, how do we get more details on AquaWatch?
Okay, well, we certainly can provide some details. We are having some meetings now with our colleagues who are the CSRO, who are members of the CRC in any case, but we are co-leading this project, this program of work indeed. And we will be having some workshops to finalize the plan and the map for the AquaWatch. I think it is the first week or second, straight after GEO, in fact. We will have that workshop. We would prefer to release information after that.
But we've got to make
it more accurate.
This is very important that we work together as a coordinated community. So CSIRO have been a big part of it, and we've also got a lot of partners which are a big part in it. But also we're discussing it with the various state governments because they all have got some very important needs in their community. So it's quite a complex mix, and you can understand it's a difficult challenge to get all these people working together. But definitely we'll be working to bring it together as a cohesive team because it's the only way we're going to solve these massive problems and challenges with us. So yeah, I guess beyond that meeting, we'll certainly have key players that from either organisation that we'll probably set up as point of contacts that can help advise people, whether it's through the CSIRO or whether it's our team or whatever.
Great, thanks for that answer. A question by Stefan Meyer was, is there a role or what is the role of existing SMEs in the SmartSat CRC?
In the existing CRCs can join, startups and SMEs, they can certainly join up. So if they're very small and immature, they can come in through our startup entity and get a lot of the support that we're looking at for them, and working together as a stronger community. The important thing with them is, though, quite often they're tiny little entities, and they really need to be included in the broader community, where they can team up with the bigger partners or the universities or whatever, so they can get their ideas, get more horsepower and the knowledge of our partners supporting their ideas. So no, anyone can be part of our startup community, especially the smaller SMEs. Yeah. And also the larger ones are more than happy to come on board as well. We'll talk to them about the opportunities and how that may work with them if they're interested.
So in adding to that response, the Smarts at CRC mission is to build the space industry, and there are many SMEs that are existing SMEs, some of them smaller, some of them larger, that actually have adjacent domain capability. For instance, machine learning that is applied in other areas, but they may now wish to apply it in space or satellite or Earth observation applications. We would welcome them, and we'll be very, very glad to have a discussion with them on how might we then help them transition from what they do now into an area that is new for them, or at least the domain is new for them. So we welcome that. And to that end, what we are doing is we are talking to the state governments around Australia to establish nodes, physical nodes, where SMEs and startups and researchers of the partner universities will actually be working together to build some of these applications.
The important thing which Andy mentioned was that a lot of these companies don't think, like the supporting technologies, don't think they're sort of space-related companies, but there's so many linkages there. And we rely on, like, your community, for example, to see companies and say, like, you're an important element of turning this space data into something tangible on Earth, and we'd love to get referrals, and we can speak to those people to help them integrate into what is a broader technology area this space is.
Sincere apologies, colleagues. Unfortunately, I'm running late for an important meeting, so I need to leave now. But thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay. Well, that is great timing, because we are at the end of our meeting. So thank you very much to Andy, Peter, and Stuart for explaining the Smarts at CRC. I think it's a really exciting opportunity. And go to the website and interact with Eva or Andy or Peter or Stuart Finn. I'm just going to the next slide. So we've had a fantastic meeting, I think. I think it was very informative for everybody, which is exactly what the idea is. An excellent industry profile by Maddie on MapEasy. Everybody's now updated on the Smarts at CRC, which will be a big part of Earth observation and space for the next 7 years. So that is a very exciting development. The next meeting will be on Thursday, the 12th of December. Same time, but keep track of summertime and which state you are in. There's a very explicit request by the organizers to please fill in the exit survey, so we can make these meetings better and better as we go along. Thanks, everybody. Great timing. We have 30 seconds left. Thank you all for participating, and looking forward to the next meeting. Bye-bye.